I didn't think I would fall for a bad boy, but his strong torso and rough hands won me over. People always assume I have it all figured out just because I'm smart. And I mean, yeah, I guess I do okay. Dean's List every semester, a part-time research assistant gig, and I actually enjoy 8 a.m. lectures, which makes me sound insufferable, I know. But the truth is, I've always played it safe. I kept to myself, studied hard, and avoided the kinds of people who left messes behind them like cigarette smoke. Which is exactly why I never expected to end up alone in the library with River Donnelly. River was the kind of guy you only heard about through rumors, or saw leaning against a bike rack in a leather jacket, lighting a cigarette he wouldn't finish. He never showed up to class on time, if at all, and yet somehow didn't flunk out. He was always bruised or scraped from something. Fights, skateboard accidents, dumb bets. And he had this look, like he didn't care whether he got kicked out of school or crowned king of it. People didn't talk to him, they talked about him. So imagine my surprise when Professor Klein pulled me aside after our econ lecture and said, "Eli, I'm pairing you with River Donnelly for the midterm project." I blinked. River Donnelly? "Yes," she said, like she was daring me to say something else. "You'll be tutoring him too. He's behind." Which was probably the understatement of the year. I almost said no, I wanted to say no. But I didn't. And that's how I ended up sitting at our usual study table in the back of the library 2 nights later, watching River swagger in like he owned the place. He dropped into the seat across from me, kicking one foot up onto the chair beside him like this was a casual hangout, and not a desperate academic intervention. "You really are as uptight as they say," he said, grinning as he pulled a pen from behind his ear. I looked up from my laptop. "You're 10 minutes late. And you're cute when you're mad." I ignored that. "Let's start with the basics," I said, pulling up the study guide. "You understand supply and demand, right?" River gave me a lopsided smirk. "I understand supply. Demand, not so much. Unless we're talking about me." I tried not to roll my eyes, but I was already wondering how I was going to survive the semester. Still, something about him fascinated me. Not in the way I'd admit. Not yet. But in the way you can't stop watching a storm rolling in. The way he slouched. The way his fingers toyed with his pen while I explained things. How he'd bite his lower lip when he was concentrating. And to my surprise, he actually listened. He didn't take notes, but he asked smart questions. Sharp ones, even. After about an hour, he leaned back in his chair and stretched. Arms over his head, shirt riding up. Just enough to reveal a sliver of ink on his ribs. "You're not as boring as I thought you'd be, Eli," he said, voice low. "You're not as hopeless as I thought you'd be," I shot back before I could stop myself. He laughed, and it startled me. This warm, rough sound that made my stomach twist in a way I didn't expect. We stared at each other for a beat too long. I broke it, returning to my laptop. "You want to meet again Wednesday?" I asked, pretending I hadn't noticed the way his gaze lingered. River stood, sliding his notebook into his bag. "Yeah," he said, then paused. "But maybe somewhere less fluorescent." I looked up. "What do you mean?" "My place," he said casually. "Wednesday night. You'll like it. I've got better coffee." Then he winked and left me sitting there, heart doing things I wasn't ready to explain. I debated for a solid day whether or not I should actually go. River's place? The campus bad boy's lair? It sounded like the beginning of a cautionary tale you tell your future therapist. But there was something about the way he said it. Not cocky, just certain, like he knew I'd show up, and that he wouldn't even need to remind me. And the most unsettling part was, he was right. Wednesday evening rolled around, and I found myself climbing the creaky wooden steps of a rundown house a few blocks off campus. The porch light flickered. Music thumped faintly from inside. Lo-fi beats, surprisingly chill for someone like River. I hesitated for a second, then knocked. The door opened a crack, and he peeked through with that half smile already on his lips. "You came. You invited me." He stepped back, motioning for me to come in. Still. I wasn't sure if you'd actually show. You don't seem like the rule-breaking type. His place was cluttered but cozy. Art supplies scattered across the coffee table, an ashtray on the windowsill, half-built skateboards leaning against the wall. A surprisingly full bookshelf caught my eye. "You read?" I asked, nodding toward it. He shrugged, grabbing a mug from the kitchen counter. "You're not the only nerd on campus, Eli." I followed him into the tiny kitchen, still unsure what I was doing there. "Hope you like your coffee strong," he said, pouring me a cup. "It's the only way I know how to make it." I took the mug, fingers brushing his. He didn't pull away. We sat at his kitchen table, books spread between us, but the conversation drifted almost immediately. We talked about classes, professors, our mutual hatred of campus dining hall food. He made me laugh more in an hour than most people did in a semester. Then, somewhere between our second cup and me trying to explain price elasticity for the third time, he leaned back and looked at me. "Why do you do it?" he asked. "Do what? Care so much? About school, about grades, about all of it." I paused, caught off guard. No one ever asked me that. Most people just assumed it was built into my DNA. "I don't know," I said quietly. "I guess because if I don't, who will?" He watched me for a second, then nodded like he understood more than he let on. "You ever want to just burn it all down?" he asked, eyes flicking to the ashtray. I gave a nervous laugh. "Maybe." Then he said something I wasn't ready for. "You don't belong in that world, Eli. You belong in the real one." I swallowed hard, unsure what that even meant. But I felt it. The tension. The quiet hum between us. When he walked me to the door, the night air was cold enough to make me shiver. He noticed. "Hang on," he said, disappearing into his room. He came back with the hoodie, black, worn, smelling faintly of smoke and something warm. He tossed it to me. "Take it." I hesitated. "Won't you need it?" He smirked. "I don't get cold." I slipped it on, and it was too big, the sleeves hanging over my hands. But it felt good. Familiar, like I'd been wearing it for years. As I stepped out, he called after me. "Same time next week?" I nodded, already knowing the answer. That hoodie stayed on my chair all week. I didn't wash it. I probably should have, but every time I picked it up to toss in the laundry, I hesitated. It still smelled like him, like campfire smoke and something darker I couldn't name, and I kept catching myself slipping it on while I studied, pretending it was for warmth. I told myself it was no big deal. We were just study partners, right? Wednesday couldn't come fast enough. This time, River opened the door before I even knocked. "Punctual," he teased. "I thought you nerds were supposed to be fashionably late when you started slumming it with bad boys." I smirked, brushing past him into the house. "I'm not here to slum. I'm here to make sure you don't flunk out." He followed behind me, and I could feel him close, like gravity had a little extra pull when he was around. We didn't even touch our textbooks that night. He had a pizza already on the coffee table and a movie queued up. "You like shitty horror movies?" he asked, dropping onto the couch and patting the spot beside him. I hesitated. "I mean, it's still technically economics," he added. "Cost-benefit analysis. We could study the financial disaster of straight-to-DVD horror." I laughed, shaking my head as I sat down. That was a reach. "I'm good at those," he said, and there was a flicker in his eyes that made me look away. The movie was terrible. Bad effects, worse acting, but I barely saw it. River sat so close our arms touched. Not constantly, but often enough that I stopped pretending it was accidental. I could feel the heat of him, the way he shifted just slightly toward me when I laughed. The way his eyes kept flicking to me, not the screen. At some point, he paused the movie. "Eli," he said, "quiet now." I turned to him, and he was already watching me, that cocky smirk gone. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why me?" I frowned. "What do you mean? You could have told Klein no. You could have let me fail and stayed in your own little world. So why didn't you? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out at first. The truth was, I didn't know. Not really. Or maybe I did, but didn't want to say it. I guess I started, then stopped. Because I see something in you. Something real. His eyes flickered. People don't usually say stuff like that to me. I felt my heart hammering, but I held his gaze. I'm not most people. Then it happened. He leaned in. Not fast, not sudden. Just enough that I could feel his breath. And stopped. Waiting. I didn't move. And then his lips touched mine. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't some over-the-top movie moment. It was slow. Careful. Like he was afraid I might break. Like he was testing a theory he'd kept secret for too long. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. We were both breathing harder than we should have been for a kiss that soft. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "For what?" "For taking so damn long." I didn't sleep much that night. Not because anything happened beyond that kiss. It didn't. Afterward, we just sat there for a while, neither of us saying much. River put the movie back on, but neither of us watched it. I think we were both trying to figure out what that kiss meant. What we were supposed to do next. When I finally left, it was late. He walked me to the door like before, but this time, his hand lingered on the back of my neck for a second longer. He didn't say same time next week. He didn't have to. Back in my dorm room, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, still wearing his hoodie. My lips still tingled from where his had been. I'd never kissed anyone like that before. Never been kissed like that. Like it wasn't just about the moment, but the buildup, the tension, all the words we hadn't said. And yeah, I was spiraling a bit. Because what even was this? River Donnelly kissed me. River Donnelly, who never stayed in one place too long, who coasted through classes like they were optional, who probably had a different hookup every weekend. Why me? What did he want? What did I want? The next day, I barely made it through my classes. My brain was toast, and even coffee couldn't revive me. I kept checking my phone, half hoping, half dreading a message from him. But nothing came. Typical. I told myself it was fine, that maybe he needed space, that maybe I did too. But Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed. "River, you free tonight?" I stared at the message. Just that. No context, no emojis. Classic River. Me. "Yeah, what's up?" "River, come over. I want to show you something." When I got to his place, he opened the door, already holding his keys. "Come on," he said. "We're going for a drive." "Where?" "You'll see." We didn't talk much in the car. He had one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the open window, wind tousling his hair. I watched him out of the corner of my eye, his jaw tense, lips slightly parted like he was deep in thought. The sun was low, painting the inside of the car in soft orange light. He looked different, less guarded. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to this old, overgrown overlook on the edge of town. The view was ridiculous. Rolling hills, trees lit gold by sunset. He killed the engine and leaned back in his seat, exhaling like he hadn't breathed all day. "This was my dad's spot," he said quietly. "He used to take me here when I was a kid, said it helped him think." I nodded, unsure where this was going. "I come here sometimes," he added, "when things feel too loud." We sat there in silence for a while, watching the sun dip below the trees. Then softly he said, "I don't know how to do this." I turned to look at him. "Do what?" "This," he said, gesturing between us. "You. Us. I'm not good at it." I swallowed hard. "Neither am I." He looked at me then, really looked. "But I want to try." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. I just leaned in and kissed him again, this time slower, deeper. His hands found my waist, holding me like he was afraid I'd disappear. And for the first time, I let myself fall into it. No overthinking. No analyzing. Just him. Just us. Things were different after that night. Not in a bad way, just different. River still skipped class sometimes. He still wore that same worn leather jacket. Still got sideways glances from professors and whispers from students who thought he didn't notice. But when we were together, something shifted. He was softer. Quieter. Like being around me let him breathe a little easier. We didn't talk about labels, we didn't tell anyone. Not because we were ashamed, but because neither of us knew how to explain it yet. This thing between us didn't fit neatly into any box. It was the little moments that got me. How he'd show up at the library when I least expected him, tossing a pack of gum onto my textbook and saying, "You looked like you needed something." Or the way he'd text me random stuff at 1 a.m., photos of whatever sketch he was working on, a song he thought I'd like, or just, "You awake?" But college doesn't stop just because your heart's having a moment. Midterms came in hot, and I got swamped. I pulled 3 all-nighters in a row and lived off vending machine coffee and protein bars. I didn't even realize how long it had been since I saw River until he texted me. "River, you dead or just ghosting me?" Me? Just dead. Econ midterm Monday. River, come over. Me, can't. Need to study. River, you'll study better here. I almost ignored it, but something about the way he said it, like he needed me there, made me grab my bag and go. His place was quiet when I got there. The lights were dim, music low. He didn't say much, just pulled me in by the front of my hoodie and kissed me like he hadn't seen me in months, like he missed me. We ended up lying on his bed, textbooks forgotten, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing slow lines across my arm. "You know what freaks me out?" he said after a while. I tilted my head up. "What?" "This," he said softly. "You, us, how good it feels." I swallowed hard. "Why does that freak you out?" "Because good things don't last," he said. "Not for me." I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong. But the way he looked at me, like he was bracing for impact, I just held him tighter instead. But the next week, everything cracked. It started with a stupid rumor. Someone saw us leaving the library together late. Said River had that look. By Thursday, people were whispering. A guy from my lab cornered me in the quad. "So you and Donnelly?" I played dumb. "What about us?" he laughed. "Didn't know you were into lost causes." I kept walking, but the words stuck. And when I got to River's place that night, he was already in a mood. "You hear what people are saying?" he asked, pacing the living room. "Yeah." "So what? So what?" "Eli, this is your world we're talking about. The GPA, the internship offers, the clean record. You think they'll still want you if they know you're with someone like me?" I stood there, stunned. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about saving you from a crash landing," he snapped. "You don't need my mess." "Maybe I want it," I shot back. That stopped him. For a second, he just stared at me, like he couldn't believe I meant it. Then he looked away. "I'm serious, River," I said, stepping closer. "Whatever this is, whatever you think you're protecting me from, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of you." But he didn't say anything. He just reached for his keys. "I need to clear my head," he muttered, already halfway to the door. And just like that, he was gone. He didn't come back that night. I waited, pacing River's place like a ghost, replaying every word we said. My stomach was in knots, and every minute felt like a test I was failing. Around 2 a.m., I finally gave up and walked home, River's hoodie pulled tight around me, even though the night was warm. The next few days felt like someone had hit pause on my life. I barely slept, barely ate. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a message, even something angry or dumb or sarcastic. Anything to let me know he was still there, still us, but there was nothing. He didn't show up to class, didn't answer texts. I even walked past his place twice, but the lights were off, blinds drawn. It was like he disappeared, like he was proving his point, that good things didn't last. And yeah, maybe I should have let it go. Maybe I should have taken the hint, focused on midterms, kept my head down, and my heart protected. But I couldn't. Because somewhere between tutoring sessions and late night pizza, between his smirks and the way he kissed me like it meant something, I'd fallen for him. Hard. It all came to a head on a Thursday night, 1 week after he left. I was at a campus cafe with some classmates, pretending to care about group project deadlines, when I saw him. Across the quad, leaning against a tree, talking to someone I didn't recognize. He looked tired, hair messier than usual, dark circles under his eyes. But still River. Still him. I left the cafe without a word and walked straight toward him. He noticed me too late to slip away. "Eli," he said, voice low, cautious. I didn't stop. "Where have you been?" He sighed. I needed space. "Yeah, well, a text would have been nice." He didn't respond, just looked away like the ground suddenly had all the answers. The guy he was talking to gave me a weird look and walked off, leaving us alone under the dim glow of a street lamp. "You said you wanted to try," I said quietly. "So what happened?" River shoved his hands in his jacket pockets. "I freaked out. I panicked. I thought maybe if I disappeared, I'd save you some trouble. You don't get to decide what's good for me, River." He looked up then, eyes sharp. "You don't understand what it's like. People expect you to fail when you're me. They expect you to crash and burn. And I've let that be true for a long time, but then you came along, and for the first time, I didn't want to screw it up." "You didn't screw it up," I said. "You just left." A beat passed. Then he stepped forward, slow and uncertain. "I'm not good at this. I don't know how to be the guy you deserve." I took a breath, heart pounding. "Then be the guy who shows up. That's all I need." We stood there, the silence between us thicker than it should have been. Then River did something I didn't expect. He reached out, took my hand, and held it like he meant it. "I missed you," he whispered. I swallowed hard. "I missed you too." He didn't kiss me, not yet, but when he walked me back to my dorm, his fingers never left mine. And that night, for the first time in days, I slept, not because everything was perfect, but because he stayed. After that night, something shifted between us. River didn't suddenly become a different person. He still rolled his eyes at authority, still had a smartass comeback for everything, still forgot his charger everywhere. But he showed up. He stayed. And that mattered more than anything. He started coming to class, even if it was just to sit in the back and doodle in the margins of his notebook. We studied more. He'd swing by the library under the pretense of needing help, but sometimes he'd just sit next to me, headphones in, silently reading while I typed away. People noticed. They started looking at me differently. Some with curiosity, some with judgment. I'd catch whispers behind me in the dining hall. Phrases like, "Isn't that Eli with River Donnelly?" Or, "What's he doing with him?" But I stopped caring. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't living for other people's approval. I was just happy. It wasn't all easy. River had rough days, moments where he'd retreat into himself, push me away without meaning to. But I learned to read the signs. I learned when to press and when to just be there. And sometimes, being there was enough. One night, after a brutal stats exam, I crashed at his place without even meaning to. We were both exhausted, sprawled on his bed with takeout boxes between us. He was flipping through an old sketchbook, and I was half asleep against his shoulder. "Did you ever think," he murmured, "that we'd end up here?" I smiled against him. "Here, like emotionally? Or here like your disgusting mattress that smells like cheap cologne and regret?" He laughed. "Both." I turned my head to look at him. "Honestly, no. You were the kind of guy the first admired from a distance. the kind I thought would never even notice someone like me. His smile faded into something softer. You were the guy the first thought I'd ruin if I got too close. You didn't ruin me, I said. You made me braver. He looked down at me then, and there was something different in his eyes, a vulnerability I didn't see often. I love you, Eli, he said, quiet, barely above a whisper, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to say it out loud. My heart stopped, then sprinted. I reached up, touched the side of his face. I love you too, River. The kiss that followed wasn't heated or desperate. It was slow, like a promise. And when we finally fell asleep tangled up in each other, I didn't worry about the future, or what people would say, or whether this thing we had made sense. I just knew it mattered. The semester ended faster than I expected. One minute we were cramming for finals, half asleep in the library. The next we were packing up dorm rooms and comparing summer plans. It should have been simple. I had an internship lined up with a consulting firm in the city. Something my advisor said was career-defining. River? He didn't have a plan. Not in the traditional sense. I might stay, he said one night, lying on his back in my bed, his fingers threading through mine. Take some summer classes. Get serious for once. You are serious, I said, and I meant it. I'd seen the work he put in, the way he fought to catch up, to care, to try. You've changed a lot. Because of you, he said, turning his head toward me. You make me want to do better. I smiled, but something in my chest twisted. Because I was leaving, even if it was temporary. 10 weeks, 2 hours away, living in a company apartment that didn't allow overnight guests. It wasn't far, but it wasn't here. We didn't talk about it much. Not until the night before I left. River came over late, hands in his pockets, looking more nervous than I'd ever seen him. I'm proud of you, he said, leaning in the doorway. I mean that. You're not gonna get all weird on me, are you? I teased, hoping to keep things light. But he didn't smile. I'm gonna miss you, he said instead. I walked up to him, slipping my arms around his waist. It's just the summer. He kissed the side of my head. Yeah, I know. The goodbye the next morning wasn't dramatic. He helped carry my bag to the rideshare, kissed me in front of the driver without hesitation, and said, "Text me when you get there." And I did. For the first few weeks, we were solid. Texts, late-night calls, blurry FaceTime sessions where we both fell asleep with the camera still on. I'd tell him about office politics and boring finance meetings. He'd send me photos of his sketches and complain about the heat in his apartment. But as the internship picked up, my hours got longer. Our calls got shorter. Sometimes I'd forget to respond for half a day, then scroll through messages and feel that tight pang of guilt. Then one night, he didn't pick up. And the next night, he didn't text back. I tried not to spiral, tried to tell myself he was just busy. But that wasn't River. He didn't ghost. Not anymore. I called again the next morning. Voicemail. Then, finally, a text. River, sorry, just needed some time. My fingers hovered over the screen. Me. Are you okay? His reply came 3 minutes later. River, I'm fine. I'm not good at being left behind. That's when I realized. For River, this wasn't just summer. It was a test of whether we meant what we said in the safety of our tiny college world. I typed and deleted a dozen different responses. Then I finally settled on one. Me. Then don't be left behind, come visit. He didn't reply right away, but that weekend, I opened my door and there he was. River, holding a backpack in one hand and a coffee in the other, looking tired and beautiful and slightly out of place in the corporate apartment hallway. I didn't come to fix anything, he said, because nothing's broken. I just needed to see you. I pulled him in without a word. And for the rest of that weekend, it didn't matter that we came from different worlds, that he still made decisions by instinct, and I still planned my life 5 years out. What mattered was that we found a way to meet in the middle. We always would.